So how is the audience in Belgium for you?
The audience is great. I mean, I think one of my favorite shows I've ever done was in Anvers, in Antwerpen, at the Sports Palace. That was probably one of my favorite moments.
So your third studio album, The Origin of Love, will be released the 16th of September. It will be more serious, less layered, and all about love and tolerance, right?
It's I don't know. See, a while ago I said less layered, but now when I listen to the record, I'm like, man, I shouldn't have said that, because this is kind of crazy layered. It's about love and tolerance. Yes, that's right. Is it more serious? Not all of it. Some of it's ridiculous. I mean, it's got extremes but every lyric has a reason for being there, which is kind of amazing. I did a fan playback yesterday in London, and they all came in, and there was about 70 of them, and afterwards I had to do a Q&A, and they were like, so is it hard getting out and promoting a record again? And I realized I was actually like, no, you know what? If you really know why you've written something, or if every song has a story and you don't actually have to make it up, like you have to most of the time, then no, it's not hard. It's quite easy. So it's a record that I love. It's very recognizably me, but at the same time, it's definitely an evolution.
So did you want to do something totally different for your third album?
No, I never said that I wanted to do anything totally different. What I wanted to do was to approach it as if it was my first album. And I think that kind of ambition or that kind of approach can only be a healthy one, because it just means that you do everything like it's the first time. You don't take anything for granted. You're like, is this melody really as good as it possibly can be? Because people are only going to listen to it if the melody is good. They're not just going to listen to it because they know who I am. So that's the kind of attitude that I tried to put into my head. But of course, I do everything that I can, and then it goes out there and it becomes its own thing. I'm being tickled by this tree.
Do you like it?
It's kind of weird.
So for an interview, you draw The Origin of Love, and you draw an apple, a watch, some leaves, and a snake. Explain that to me.
Oh yeah, I was doing this interview where I was asked to draw the answers, and they said, what is the origin of love? And I drew an apple, which symbolizes, I guess, the original sin in the Garden of Eden, because Adam and Eve, exactly. And then I did this watch, which was the ticking clock, and then I put this snake, which is always this kind of this concept that you can only fall in love. There's always this idea of guilt in love for some weird reason, and I guess the snake represented that guilt. I think it worked a lot better as a drawing, my answer, because as soon as I start to speak it, it sounds so kind of pretentiously philosophical, which is not at all what I'm like as a person.
But the leaves are also here, right?
But yeah, I guess you tried to kind of give me a little bit of a budget garden.
An inspiration.
Yeah.
So you draw pretty good. Do you want to do something with that talent?
I drew with my sister the first two album covers. Yasmin, exactly. And then and we draw a lot. One day, I do. I mean, I always had this dream of having a character shop. It's kind of workshop that just created characters, and whether if they ended up as cartoons or as I don't know, as storybooks or something, or movie characters, whatever, just kind of creating these characters. It's what I started doing it when I was 8. And I guess maybe when I'm like, I don't know, when I'm older, or as I get older, it could be something that I do more and more, because it's something that just won't go away. I still have this desire to create a character with like a look and a certain kind of feature or emotional attitude, and design always the clothes and the whole world around this character. For some reason, it's something that I guess it's the comic book fan in me, which is, of course, a very big part of Belgian culture, as we all know.
So did your sister Jasmine also work on the artwork for the third album?
We're doing it right now for the third album. And
so it's not ready yet?
It's not ready yet, no, very much to the worry of my record company. It's not.
So what will it be? What will it be?
Well, it's different. It's still very colorful, and it's still got a lot of energy, but it's quite different. I mean, there's a lot more photography. But there's a lot of illustration as well. But all the photography is black and white, and then drawn on top of me are all these illustrations that are in color. Nice. So it's kind of like it's like you see all these things coming out of my face that are drawn on top, I'm crying a tear of blood, but then the blood turns into this other thing. It turns into animals that are jumping up onto my head, and it's kind of cool.
A lot of fantasy.
It's full of fantasy, but it's quite a mischievous fantasy in this one. It's inspired by a lot of work from the 70s, by the album cover of the Cream album, Disraeli Gears, which is really beautiful and quite trippy, and one thing turns into something else, which turns into something else. Yet the photography is very cool, very edgy, very black and white, and I like the contrast between the two.
So how nice is it to work together with your sister?
Oh, I guess we're like a circus family. I mean, when I started off, I was 11 years old, and we used to. I left school. I started to sing, and I started to get jobs really quickly. And so, from the age of 11, I was singing professionally, but in classical music, and we didn't really have any money that no one was paying me much. So, whenever we had to go to a job, we all used to drive together as a family, and we would sleep in our Toyota Previa, which we still have.
Like vacation all the time.
It wasn't vacation. It was more like really, really, really bad camping with no money. It was like, and so we used to sleep outside the nearby or whatever. Sometimes we'd go to a bed and breakfast, and this kind of idea that we're a troupe, this collective, is really part of the way that I live and the way that I work. Like, you walk into my house and there will be 7 people there, friends, adopted family, and I guess.
So you never want to be alone then?
Well, no, I'm alone a lot of the time, but I like to know that there's people nearby. That's really important to me. That was actually part of the way that I recorded my first album. I did it at college, and all my friends worked on my records, and then I would go and help them out on their projects, and there was this big community exchange. On the second album, I was a lot more alone. And then on the third record, I decided to find that community again. So I went around finding people that I thought were interesting, that I thought made music kind of like me. Yeah. And I created my own kind of collective again, in the same way that I make my album artwork or do my tours. I like to surround myself with people who are like-minded, and we all collaborate on each other's records.
Yeah, you work together with a lot of people on your new album: Pharrell Williams, Nick Littlemore, Benny Benassi, Ellie Goulding, but also with new talent like Fourier, someone you found out on the internet.
Friars is.
I didn't know how to pronounce it.
No one does. No one does for now. Friars is a young artist who's 22. He was 22 when I met him. Now he just turned 23, and I found him on the internet, and he.
So why do you want to work together with him?
Well, I didn't really want to meet him. Somebody sent me his stuff, and then I was like, yeah, it's all right. And they were like, no, you have to go. You have to go see. So I went to his house, and I sat on a bed at his house where he lives with his parents, and I listened to his music, and I was like, oh my God, this is so weird and so interesting and so good. Let's do it. And I guess I added him into the family. And although it sounds like I collaborated, I didn't really collaborate. It was more like an exchange with all these people. Like, hang around, we'll all hang around. I'll work on your records, you work on mine. So I wrote one of the singles for Empire of the Sun as a result. And then I wrote a song on the Madonna album. All of that was part of this exchange, that happened. So although it sounds like a lot of people, it really doesn't feel or sound like that on the album. It sounds very much like me. Yeah.
Is it important for you to support young, new talent?
I think it's really important to try and find young talent in everything that you do. It doesn't mean that you have to use them, because sometimes, just because they're young doesn't mean they're better. Like inspiration? But give them a shot. Like, I always think, like, whenever I'm asking somebody to make a video, I always go to the people who are helping me find the director, like, give me someone who's never done a video before. And they're like, oh, no. I was like, yeah, well, who's done the least? Let's start with that. Like, why not? It's not like before where like in the 80s and something, you had to go through this crazy system of hierarchy to get to do these projects or to get to work on a record. Now, you can, you can be 22 or 19 or 15 like Madion, and suddenly, you get to do it because the internet has dismantled and broken down all those barriers. So why not? I think it's more than ever. It's not, do I try to use young talent? No, I don't. I guess I do, but the reality is I'd be stupid not to.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's really nice of you to do that. Listening to Celebrate. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Let's do one more.
Let's do one more. Listening to Celebrate, your new single. Oh, sorry, I'm a little bit confused now. Yeah, listening to Celebrate your new single, I can also feel like a really Daft Punk influence. So will the all album sound more like electronic?
No, not the whole album. There's some songs that do sound electronic, like they do. And Daft Punk is, you know, that I guess what I like about that period of French house was that it was electronic music, but it made you feel stuff. Yeah. It made you put your hands up in the air. It didn't always make you dance like a maniac. In a weird sort of way, it was the kind of electronic music, whether it's Daft Punk or Royksop or something, you could put on in the car and just listen to. And I really like that. And it just makes you feel happy. It's got this lightness of touch about it. Yeah. So there is that side on the record, but there is also stuff that's completely not electronic at all. But, you know,
no love song ballads?
There's one, a really good one called Underwater, which is one of my favorite songs off the whole record.
But there will also be French songs on the album, right? Like El Midi you wrote together with Dorian?
Exactly, with Dorian. Wow, you really know, you know everything. you can do my interview. Yeah, there are French songs. There's a song called Carène. There's a song called L'amour dans le mauvais temps, and there's Elle me dit, and yeah.
Is that because French c'est la langue de l'amour?
Non, pas nécessairement. Non, c'est bon, je sais pas si c'est la langue de l'amour, mais c'est certainement la langue de mon enfance. It's the language of my childhood, and it was something that I wanted to do for a long time. So I went for it, even though everyone told me not to, and
you did a great job.
It's kind of fun to be able to sing in 2 languages.
Also maybe in Spanish and Chinese, because you also speak those languages?
I don't speak Chinese. I'm the worst Chinese. Spanish I do speak, but I don't know. I've never had the desire to sing in it. Don't worry, I'm not going to do an Avril Lavigne. I remember when she recorded Girlfriend in like 7 different languages. I was like, really? Really, girl?
Ok, merci beaucoup pour l'interview
merci à vous.
Et à l'autre temps.
Ah ouais, à la prochaine fois.
Oui, merci beaucoup.
Merci.